Restoration businesses fail and they get stuck because they don't understand this one thing: digital marketing. In this video, I want to unpack everything that I know about restoration digital marketing so that way you can grow and scale your business with this easy fishing pole. Now, here's the stuff that we're going to go over like practically and tactically in this video. First one is, what exactly do I mean when I say online marketing for restorers, and what does that look like? The second thing is that we're going to go behind the scenes and talk about how online marketing actually works. We're also going to dive into the biggest mistake that restorers make when they try to deploy online marketing. We're then going to talk about how do you tell if your online marketing is working versus if it's not working. And of course, we're going to talk about how do you manage your online marketing agencies for success. And if you're an online marketing agency servicing the restoration industry, listen to this video as it could really help you gain a competitive advantage on how to service our beautiful industry here. Now make sure you stay till the end, as I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek on what we're cooking up here at Albi and why I'm standing in front of you guys preaching online marketing. Let's dive in. But wait, before we dive in, I want to make sure that you have 100% belief on the power of online marketing within restoration. So I'm going to give you 3 more data points just in case the Northeast company didn't really work out for you. So first of all, at my own restoration company, last quarter, we spent over $35K on online marketing, and we ended up generating 500 plus qualified leads that turned into $770K worth of revenue. And I'll actually show you this right here, right now. I'll flip my screen and show you right here, right? 34.8K was spent. We actually had $167 was our cost per conversion. So we were generating leads at $167 there. And then in here, you could see the accrual revenue straight out of Albi was $757,000. Average job size was here. The kicker is that all of this was with shitty closing rates, right? Like 20-some% closing rates. So if you're able to close way better than we are, you're actually able to knock it out of the park. Data point number 2 is that look at the landscape. There's companies like 33-Mile Radius, Inquirely, Service Direct that are all doing over $10 million of revenue off of selling ads to restorers. The restoration online marketing market is so massive and restorers don't really know what they're doing that there's companies like Inquirely, 33-Mile Radius and such going in there and saying, no, hang on. I'll just go ahead and do it. I'll run these ads. I'll take these leads. I'll mark them up and then sell the leads to restorers because restorers don't know how to do them themselves. And then the third thing that I want to say is that water damage keywords are among the most expensive keyword in the nation. Very similar to like a malpractice attorney and an auto wreck attorney. Water damage restoration keywords fall in there. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that there's enough demand for Google to see it as a premium keyword that they can make money off of. So those 3 data points there that I gave you should absolutely bust any self-limiting belief that you have over why you should not do online marketing. The reason I'm telling you all this, I'm telling you this so you understand how massive the opportunity is when you get it all right. So now, let's dive into the meat and potatoes. All right, so what do I specifically mean by online marketing? Well, look, when a customer goes in and said flooded basement repair, and they go on Google and search, there's all of these different things that pop up, right? So obviously ignore this because, this is what I see from my Google Ads account, but typically they'll see this sponsored tab up here where it says water damage services and then it says Hinsdale. And you'll have all these things now. Look, we're actually number 1 here, right? And you hit here and click to call. This section here is called Google LSA. It's Google Local Services Ads, and it's a type of ad that you could run, and basically it's a direct to call. So the customer doesn't have an option to go on your website or anything. They basically hit that phone number, they call, and you answer it and get the lead. And then Google has some sort of algorithm to where you only pay for qualified leads. So this is Google's way of competing with the Inquirelys, the Thumbtacks, and stuff of the world. So that's what this is. The second opportunity you have is this area here. And this area is PPC, or pay-per-click ads is what they're called. So instead of here where you're paying for a lead, Google local service ads, in here you're actually paying for a click. So the customer goes in, hits that click button, it opens up the website, they read over that specific website, and then they call this number and get to you. Now, you pay for the click. So I just costed water damage cleanup.repair $30. Sorry, water damage cleanup.repair. I bet you though that this here is probably an ad created by one of those companies like 33 Mile Radius. But anyway, moving on. Then you have the AI overview. So AI overview is Google's way of trying to build an AI that tries to find information about the topic that you're searching. It's not the most helpful, and most people will actually skip it because look, the AI, I'm sitting here saying, hey, flooded basement repair, and the AI is trying to be a smart aleck to tell us, here's how to dry a basement or whatever. I don't care about that as a consumer, so I'll probably skip through that. And then over here is Google My Business, GMB. So this is based on your Google My Business listing, based on how close I am to these specific locations and the reviews. It'll show the businesses here, and I can click for more businesses. And then at the bottom of it all is what's called the organic results, right? So these are not paid. This is just Google crawling and constantly ranking. And then at the very bottom, you see an ad again. And hey, look, Romex area, Chicagoland right here. So those are the different ways that you see online marketing to happen. And basically, when I say run online marketing, what I mean by that is run a combination of LSA ads, which are local services ads, where you're paying to have somebody call you. Then you're paying for Google pay-per-click, Google PPC, and basically there you're paying to bring visitors to your website. And then when they get to your website, they basically call you. And then afterwards, you're doing things properly on your Google My Business account, so that way you could show up in the little map search, so that way the customer can find you there. And then lastly, at the bottom of the list is that SEO stuff that most marketing agencies talk about it super great, but it is on the last of the list because you saw how much I had to scroll through till I got to those organic results. And if I'm a homeowner with a flooded basement, it's going to take forever to get to the bottom there. Now, side caveat, how do I know so much about online marketing, why I'm passionate about this? Actually, in high school, I used to build websites, and I used to get websites to rank organically. And that was back in the day when we had these interesting techniques that could be done to kind of hack your way around the Google algorithms. Unfortunately, Google got a little smarter than that, so those don't apply anymore. But anyway, that was just a side note. So now I want to dive into how online marketing actually works. And you guys may have all seen a funnel that looks something like this. But essentially, in LSA and in Google PPC, there's a couple of layers to this funnel. And the first one is impressions. So when I went on to this water damage restoration search here, and let me open that up here. Whenever somebody scrolls through and sees your ad, that is basically an impression. So in this case right now, this is an impression because the ad actually showed. Now that doesn't mean that I, as the user, actually clicked on the ad and went to the website, or I actually clicked on this phone number to call. That's an impression. The second step is actually your clicks. So this is the user actually took an action with your specific ad. And then from the clicks, it actually turned into qualified leads. And qualified leads basically mean that somebody within your service territory contacted you to ask you to come out and give them an estimate on some sort of water job that they had within their property. And then obviously at the bottom here, we have revenue, which is money that we made or projects that we invoiced. So those are the different steps to this funnel. And in an online marketing agency, we'll follow a procedure, which I'll show you in a little bit. But the goal is the more impressions that we can get and the better we can talk with our ads to the customers, we'll get more clicks. And then based on the types of keywords we bid on and stuff like that, we'll get more qualified leads, which eventually drives into revenue. Now, this is a nice to have to give you contextual understanding over how online marketing works, but don't get bogged down in the details here because a lot of this stuff you could just kind of put in the back of your head. But it's important to lay this foundation before we dive into the deep end here. Now, what I get asked a lot, like what do online marketing agencies actually do? And how do we actually deploy an online marketing strategy? And what are the steps to that? There's actually 4 main steps that an online marketing agency should do. And most of them only do a few of these steps. So the first step that they're going to do is actually configure/launch your ads. So they're going to go to Google, they're going to put in all this information, and they're going to configure and launch your ads so that way everybody in the world can actually see them. The second thing that they're going to do is set up some sort of tracking. So they're going to connect the ads to some sort of dashboard that's going to show some sort of visibility on this funnel. That's going to show them the number of impressions, or they'll come back to you and say, well, your click-through rate, which basically means, what percentage of your impressions turned into clicks, and all this stuff. They're going to put all this fancy tracking in, which you as a restorer don't really care about, but just keep in mind this is the second step that they do. The third step, which is actually tricky, is they're going to do ROAS tracking. And ROAS is return on ad spend. So they're going to want to do something where they could say, hey, you spent $30,000 with me and you got this many X. And the problem is most of these online marketing agencies don't really have a way to track how many actual jobs and what dollar amount came from your ad efforts. So they'll come in and say, hey, we got you this many calls. And then the friction point that's going to happen there, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is you're going to be like, well, all the calls are spam calls. And we'll kind of unpack this, but there's some friction that happens here. And then the fourth step that online marketing companies will do, well, they should do, is optimize, where basically they're going in and tweaking stuff every single month. Now, fun fact, which I'm not really thrilled about, our world-class online marketing agency that is delivering amazing results for a lot of our companies logs in 2 to 3 times for like 5 minutes into our Google Ads accounts. So even the best of the best barely spend time really optimizing, and that's where the juice is. So we'll talk about why that's important in a little bit. So the next thing I want to get into is what most restoration contractors get wrong with online marketing. And I will actually draw this out as well. Here's how things work in the real world. If you're going to look here at ad spend and you're going to plop on this graph cost per lead, the graph looks something like this. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. Sub 3 to 5K of ad spend, and this holds true. I've coached hundreds of restoration contractors, and this magical number is somewhere between 3 to 5K. Sub 3 to 5K of ad spend, your cost per lead is super high, right? You might spend like $1,000 per lead. And this is where most restorers give up and fail, and they pull their hair out. And I call this like the zone of death. It's super annoying for a restorer. And a lot of times online marketing agencies don't want you taking big bets because they don't feel responsible into taking on your budget and stuff. And they'll say, oh yeah, just start out with $1,000 a month in PPC. Stupidest thing ever. Like, absolutely don't do that, because here's the deal, right? If a click costs, it goes back to this, right? If an impression or a click costs $300 and it takes, 10 clicks to be able to get a qualified lead, if you're spending less than $3,000, you won't even be able to get that one lead, right? So you're just basically donating money to Google if you spend less than $3,000 to $5,000. Then what happens is actually rather interesting. Of the restorers that do get past this, then it seems like the online marketing agency celebrates the fact that the cost per lead goes down, and then they end up, stopping somewhere around here. And that typically could look like 10K per month. Oh, yay, we got to 10K per month, and our, cost per lead is like $100. That's super dirt cheap. I'm riding the wave. It's so great, and that's where a lot of people see success. But the reality is, what you actually want to do is continue on spending money until it starts kind of creeping back up. There's going to be a point where it starts creeping back up where, it costs $200 a lead, $300 a lead, $400 a lead, and get to the point where it's almost like unbearable, right? This is called the point of diminishing returns. Let's say somewhere here. And then what you want to do is scale slightly back. So let's say you keep spending more money, and at 50K per month. What? 50K per month? Yeah, if you're getting $7 million a year worth of revenue, it's totally worth it to spend 50K per month, right? But at 50K per month, you're going to say, hey, look, my cost per lead is $1,000, and that is just absolutely unbearable, right? Like, I've reached saturation. And then what you do is you just spend a little less, and maybe your happy spot is 40K per month, where your average cost per lead is $800. Now, again, if you have a higher closing rate and a higher average job size, you're going to be able to afford to spend a lot more to get a job than if you have a low closing rate and a lower job size, which we're not going to get into this video. But what I want you to take away from this section is that most restorers fail miserably at online marketing because they try it with a sub 3 to 5K budget and it fails. And actually in the comments below, write 3 to 5K budget if this has actually happened to you. Because I bet you, if you guys are actually paying attention to this video by this point, it has happened to you before. So moving on, how do we tell if it's actually working is the next chapter that we have to talk about, and what's important. So I think the biggest thing that's important for people to know to tell if online marketing is actually working or not is what is your cost per lead in general, right? And holding your online marketing agency accountable to a cost per lead target. Now, depending on your closing rate, your appetite for cost per lead might be higher or lower. So if you have a 33% closing rate and you don't want to spend more, well, actually the way I would look at it is the following. Here's how I would look at the ideal cost per lead, right? I would take your average job size. So let's just say it's $8,000. And I would multiply it by your customer acquisition cost percentage. I typically recommend for conservative restorers to budget 10%, for aggressive restorers to budget 20%. You'll fall somewhere in between 10 to 20%. So let's just say you're an aggressive restorer, that means 20%. You're willing to spend 20% to get a job. So that means that your cost per job is $1,600. And then what you're going to do is multiply that by your closing rate. So if you have a 33% closing rate, or a third, then that basically means, and man, look at me making math hard for me again. That means that you can afford $533 per qualified lead. Now, on the flip side, if your average job size is double or your closing rate is double, you could probably afford up to $1,000 per qualified lead. That's the beauty of online marketing. The only thing you have to care about is the cost per qualified lead. And the beauty is you can go hire somebody and hold them accountable to that. Now, if your agency is telling you about views, tell them you don't care about views. If your agency is telling you about impressions, tell them you don't care about impressions. If your agency is telling you about click-through rate, tell them you don't care about click-through rate. The only thing that you care about is the cost per qualified lead, and they should build some sort of tracking system where via recorded phone calls or something like that, you and them can objectively measure how much was spent divided by how many qualified leads were generated. The definition of qualified lead is somebody within your area that is looking for a service that you can provide and is willing to have you come out and perform an on-site inspection. Those are the three things, okay? No BS calls, none of that. It's up to the provider to optimize within your parameters, and we'll get into how you manage that provider in a little bit. Now, how do you manage that provider? Well, here's the deal. Most restoration business owners get this wrong too, because they go out, find an online marketing provider. They think that they're the holy grail. They say, here, sign up. Here's my credit card. And then they ghost and they don't hold them accountable. It's like, if you were to do that with your technician or your project manager, would that work? Can you just say, hey, Bobby, the technician, I'll hire you. Here's the credit card. Here's everything. Go out and do everything. That would absolutely not work. I'm a firm believer in the thought process of transformational leadership. And transformational leadership is the way you should hold everybody in your organization accountable for, and all of your vendors should also be held accountable the same exact way. And the conversation is rather simple. 1, outcome. 2, measure. 3, coach/converse. So outcome is, hey, I need X dollars per SQL. In your first 2 weeks of working with me as an online marketing provider, you need to basically find a way to track with your fancy dandy technology. I'm just a restorer. I'm not fancy. You need to find a way to track how we're going to measure this, and we need to agree on how we measure this, right? So we're going to measure this, whatever, with Albi or phone calls or whatever. And then the third thing is I'm going to actually coach you, and we're going to go back and forth and converse on what's working, what's not working. And you are going to tell me as an online marketing provider what you need from me. And I'm going to set a ticker, 90 to 120 days. And every restorer listening to this call right now or to this video should give themselves permission to fire their online marketing agency at most within 6 months. Too many restorers don't do any of this work. Like if you do this work, you hop on these calls, you're coaching them weekly or bi-weekly. You're literally going through this and saying, hey, my outcome is clear. I'm measuring and it's not hitting here. And we're having these conversations and you're not needing anything from me. You're just saying, yeah, we're waiting for it to pick up. Within 120 to 180 days, you have my permission and you should give yourself permission to let them go and go find somebody else and then follow this process again. You eventually will get to the online marketing provider that works and it will actually work for you and it'll be incredible. But you need to hold them accountable. And as far as the coaching, well, what coaching can you actually do with them? Well, it'll sound something like, hey, we need some more Google reviews because you don't have enough Google reviews. Or, hey, we want you to open up another strategic location, right? Go open up a co-working space or whatnot. Or, hey, we actually recommend you spend a little bit more money on budget, right? Help them with those specific things, but reiterate the point and meet with them on a bi-weekly or monthly basis and be fully transparent with them, right? Because nobody's going to do anything if you don't actually become the squeaky wheel and you don't actually hold them accountable. Restoration online marketing could be absolutely beautiful, but you need to make sure you implement that. Now, for the mic drop moment, I did promise you that there was a particular reason why we at Albi are so passionate about this specific topic. And that's because I think we've cracked a couple of codes, and I actually want to show you something real quick. We found out ways to actually track your ad spend to the revenue that you produce within the platform, straight within Albi, and it's dialed into the revenue. And then you're actually able to scroll that down to specific campaigns and see what customers actually came from these specific ad campaigns and see how much revenue came from what. So like in here, you could see that local service ads have a 4.7x return, whereas your regular water damage has a 1.15 return. We believe that this tool, once fully built and fully launched, it's in beta right now, will revolutionize the way restoration contractors do digital marketing and will give restoration marketing agencies an advantage to be able to do these things. And we have some cool stuff with AI where you could basically put in and automatically find that zone of diminishing returns. And it'll buy ads for you, and they'll all be AI powered, and there's a lot of other cool stuff that's coming here. In the next 3 to 6 months, comment below if you want to be on that early access list. I'll happily put you there. It's going to be mind-blowing what this could do for the restoration industry. So that, my friends, is the scoop on online marketing. Comment below your number one takeaway. Would love to hear that. If you want to hear more content like this, hit that subscribe button, as we're dedicated to propel the restoration industry forward and bring more beautiful stuff like this to the industry. Talk to you guys soon.